It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Atlanta Braves. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Memorial Day to you, wherever you may be. The Atlanta Braves arrive in town a little bit erratic. They started off the year 6-1, turned around, went 9-18, and have turned around again and arrive here having won 7 of the last 9. They are 3.5 games behind the Washington Nationals in the East, and I'm sure for a lot of people, they are quite a surprise. They'll pitch Williams Perez, a rookie who does not have a record. For the Dodgers, coming off winning another series at home against San Diego, the Dodger record in series at home, 11-0-1. The one was a split of a 4-game series with the Colorado Rockies. On the mound for the Dodgers will be Brett Anderson. 1-1 in April, 1-1 in May, but what a difference. In April, 1-1 with an earned run average of 5.4. In May, 1-1 with an earned run average of 1.9. Dodgers have not been playing well ever since they went to San Francisco. They have lost 5 out of 8, but they like to polish up their act before going on the road. They're 19-6 at home. That's great. But going out on the road, they're the only division leader under 500. They're 7-11. So we've got a good ball game coming up. Pull up a chair, relax. We got a game and a whole lot more right after this.
And the Los Angeles Dodgers. Game 1 between the Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves here at Chavez Ravine. Before we get to the first pitch, let's take care of some business. Time for the injury report brought to you by Curlin Job. Yasmani Grandal, the Dodgers starting catcher, is still on that concussion DL. He is eligible to return from that 7-day DL on Saturday. Before that, however, he is expected to designate hit for
By Disneyland. Get ready to be dazzled during the Disneyland Resort Diamond Celebration happening now with spectacular new entertainment and more.
Hi, everybody, and a very blessed Memorial Day to you, wherever you may be. It's too serious a day, but we will take our minds off it for a couple of hours as the Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves play a child's game. But all you have to do for a moment is sit and think and realize how many men and women gave their lives up so we could be sitting here and worrying such a thing as, will that fly ball score a run? Will that pitcher win his 7th game of the year, etc. So thank you to all of you who have served in the military. Our blessings and prayers for the Gold Star parents who lost fathers, sons, and daughters. And, of course, when we talk about the dead, and that's what we always do on Memorial Day, remember the wounded. There are so many wounded who gave up sight or hearing or limbs. So we salute each and every one who wore a uniform representing the United States. And to each and every one of us sitting here contentedly at Dodger Stadium, worrying about the home team will beat the visiting team. If you're watching at home, we would ask you, please, to see if you would tell your kids the importance of the day. As the military en masse, 5 of them throughout the ceremonial first pitch, we had representatives from every area of the military here. A very touching pre-game ceremony. But again, to repeat, don't just let it go by as a holiday. Don't let it go by for, barbecuing on the grill. Please take the time and tell your children exactly what Memorial Day means. And with that thought in mind, now let's take a look at a child's game, even though they play it for a lot of money. For the visiting Atlanta Braves, Jace Peterson at second base, Cameron Maybin in center field, Freddie Freeman at first base, Nick Markakis in right field, Johnny Gomes in left, Andrelton Simmons at short, Pedro Siriaco at third, Christian Bethancourt, the catcher, and Williams Perez, the pitcher. The visiting Braves come in 3.5 games behind Washington, and on the mound for the Dodgers, Brett Anderson, the left-hander, ready, and his first pitch to Jace Peterson in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Peterson has the highest number of RBIs with the bases loaded. He has 11 of them. Grounds one up the middle, backhanded by Kendrick, throws back to first to get him. Nice opening act as Howie Kendrick goes way to his right, and you have a good left-hand batter who runs well, and yet Kendrick was able to nail him on a bang-bang play. So 1 away, and the batter now will be old friend Cameron Maybin. You remember Cameron, of course, played for San Diego. Marvelous defensive outfielder. Things stopped momentarily, the thought being, was that play at first close enough to be reviewed? And then the option was, no, never mind. So Cameron Maybin hitting .257, 4 home runs, 18 runs batted in. His 9-game hitting streak, however, he's been red hot, and he takes a strike, and the count 0-1. When Cameron Maybin was with San Diego, they were playing an exhibition game against the Braves. Cameron takes a strike, and the count 0-2. And even though he was in a San Diego uniform, he was listening to Kevin Seitzer as he fouls another one away. Listening to Kevin Seitzer, the hitting coach for Atlanta. And what Kevin said made tremendous sense to him. So when Maybin came aboard, he was already a full-fledged member. Swings, hits a hopper down to short, backhanded by Rollins, throw gets him, and just like that, we have 2 down in the first inning, and the local boy, and probably their best hitter, and that would be Freddie Freeman. So Kevin Seitzer making his notes. Another thing about Kevin, and he should get a real pat on the back for it, and that is, last year Atlanta would swing right after the national anthem, and they would never stop swinging. He has already cut their strikeouts down by 100, and that's a lot in the first 2 months of the season. So here is Freddie Freeman,
Left-hand batter takes a strike and the count 0-1. He always adds to the lead. He has 15 RBIs when the Braves are out in front. Takes a pitch off the plate. He gets a lot of base hits compared to his appearance. And as a left-hand batter, 22 runs batted in. That's a bunch. The 1-1 pitch fouled away off to the left, out of play. Freddie hitting .297. He has 5 home runs, 22 runs batted in. Meanwhile, Brett Anderson standing out there. The next pitch to Freeman, 1-2, swung on, ground ball inside third and down the line on the overshift. So Freeman, a ground ball that should have been just a routine play, but baseball has fallen in love with the shift. So just a ground ball to third, but there's nobody there, and Freeman has a base hit. You know, with Freddie over the last 3 years, he's 4th in the majors hitting with runners in scoring position and 2 out. That's the toughest at bat in the game, and he's hit .333 under those conditions. Nick Markakis coming up to the plate. Markakis, another left-hand batter for Brett Anderson to go after, and he punches one foul outside of third. 0-1 to count to Nick. Markakis, although if you look at it now you wouldn't realize it, Markakis pretty much of a power hitter. However, he had neck surgery and he is really just building his way back. Strike one pitch, low and inside at the hands. 1 ball and 1 strike. Anderson likes to work according to his rhythm. Nick is a Georgia boy and fouls another pitch away. Over a stretch with the Baltimore Orioles in 1907, 8, 9, and 10, Nick Markakis, 4 straight years, had more than 43 doubles. He joined 2 great names in the Hall of Fame, Joe Medwick and Trish Speaker. 1-2 pitch, Markakis takes low. We talked about his power. Well, he had 23 home runs for Baltimore. He had 20. Last year he had 14. He does not have a home run right now. Anderson out of his stretch, comes back to the left-hand hitter, a dribbler to the left of the mound. Anderson fires to first, and that's it. No runs. The wrong field single by Freddie Freeman. A man left. The end of half an inning. The Braves shut down. Williams Perez going to work in the bottom of the first. First pitch strike to all 4 hitters. There were 3 ground balls, one of them a ground ball that went into left field, and 15 pitches made as the Dodgers now will be sending up their lineup against a pitcher they've not seen before, and that would be Williams Perez. Jock Peterson, Jimmy Rollins, Howie Kendrick, and Adrian Gonzalez. Justin Turner's at third today. Then Ethier, Van Slyke, Ellis, and Anderson. Williams Perez, big enough to get the job done. And Perez settling in before making his first pitch. He's from Aragua in Venezuela. 6-footer, good 180, 185. Had a rough start in his major league debut. Right-hander ready and deals. Peterson takes a strike. Williams Perez came into a game in the 8th inning, the 8th of May against Washington. He gave up a walk, then he gave up a single, and then he gave up a 3-run home run to Bryce Harper. Pitch to Peterson outside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Jock hitting .237, 12 home runs, 23 runs batted in. Perez comes right back, fastball fouled late, 92 miles an hour. The next time that Williams Perez appeared, he pitched 2 scoreless innings, and he had 2 strikes on 6 of the 8 hitters he faced. Then his first major league start was last time out on the 20th against Tampa Bay. Struck out 7, got 7 ground balls, and retired 5 hitters when he was behind in the count. 1-2 pitch on the way. Peterson takes high. If Williams Perez is on his game, basically a 2-seam fastball. So you could say he's a sinker ball pitcher, a slider, which is not great, a changeup, which is listed better than the slider. 2-2 pitch, fastball inside at 93. Almost got Jock. 3-2 the count. So the fastball trying to run in almost hit him on the ribs on the right side. So Peterson goes full. Perez looks to get a sign. Right-hander into his windup. And the 3-2 pitch on the way. Swung on. Fly ball in the gap. And here a diving try by Cameron Maben. Can't make it. Into second base goes Jock Peterson with a fly ball double. It was in no man's land. It was equally between Cameron Maben and Nick Markakis. There was no chance for Jace Peterson to get out there. Maben fully extended, still missed by several inches, and Peterson has himself a fly ball double. So a runner at second, nobody out, and Jimmy Rollins coming up. Rollins, Kendrick, and then Gonzalez trying to pick him up. Perez ready and deals. Rollins bunts out in front of the plate. A throw to third, and they have gotten Peterson. Yes, they did. Jock Peterson tried to spin his way away from the tag, but they got him. So Rollins lays down a bunt, and Peterson is nailed at third. So on the fielder's choice, Rollins holding. Good play by the catcher Bethancourt, firing down to Siriaco, and that'll be that. So play goes 2-5. Peterson had nowhere to go except to spin and try to avoid the tag, but he couldn't do it. So now here's Howie Kendrick, and he takes off the plate the slider. 1 ball and no strikes. So Rollins a threat to steal over there at first base. Out of his stretch, Perez comes back way off the plate. 2 balls and no strikes. No score. Bottom of the first inning, 1 away. Now the 2-0 pitch on the way. Perez looks over his left shoulder to see where Rollins is. Conservative lead. And the 2-0 pitch instead draws a throw to first. Dodgers coming into this ballgame have lost 5 of 8. The Braves coming in have won 7 of 9. There's one big difference between these two teams, and that would be home runs. The next pitch to Kendrick in for a strike, and they count 2-1. The Dodgers have hit 57 home runs. Atlanta has hit half of that and then some. Atlanta has only 26. In fact, Atlanta has gone 7 straight games without hitting a home run. Here's the 2-1 pitch to Howie Kendrick instead of throw to first. Earlier this year, the White Sox had a 9-game homerless streak. And with that matter, just to conclude the thought, the Braves have only 2 home runs in their last 15 games. 2-1 pitch coming up to Kendrick. Swings and fouls it away upstairs off to the right, out of the club level, and bounces down below. Taking a look, you can see right behind the Dodgers, Cincinnati with 49, Washington 48, Cubs 43, Milwaukee 4-3. Talking about Milwaukee, they lost today to the Giants. Giants beat them 8-4. So technically the Dodger lead for the moment, a game and a half. 2-2 pitch is taken, strike 3 called. So Howie Kendrick is caught looking. 2 down, and the batter will be Adrian Gonzalez. To Howie thinking maybe the pitch was up, but it caught the zone, and down he goes. We were talking about the fact no home runs or whatever. Adrian Gonzalez has gone 51 at bats. That's 16 games without a home run. So we'll see what he does right now. And of course, we'll see what Rollins does with 2 out over there at first base. Perez very deliberate throws over there. With 2 down, you run Rollins. If he succeeds, you have a shot at a run batted in. If you run him and he's caught, then you begin the next inning with Adrian Gonzalez. Tim Lincecum went 5 2/3 today, gave up 4 runs in 5 innings. It was the Giant bullpen that was brilliant. 4 scoreless innings. 1 ball and no strikes to Adrian. Nori Aoki, the left fielder, had 4 hits. Hunter Pence had 3, and they each knocked in 2, beating Kyle Lohse. 8-4 Giants over Brewers. The next one is high ball 2 to Endo. So Williams Perez, signed by the Braves 5 years ago, January the 12th. His secret, not to overpower, mixing pitches and throwing strikes and trying to keep the ball on the ground. 2-0 pitch on the way. Adrian takes low and inside, ball 3. Three and 0 the count. No score, bottom of the first inning. Rollins at first base, and the 3-0 pitch to Adrian is taken for a strike on the outside corner. 3-1. Well, Rollins looking over to see if Bundy has the go sign. 3 balls and 1 strike. Dodgers trying to win their 20th game at home. Perez out of his set. A look over. Rollins not going, and the ball is lined into left center field for a base hit. Over to get it is Johnny Gomes. Into third goes Jimmy Rollins on a long single by Adrian Gonzalez. So the Dodgers wasted the pop fly double when the bunt backfired, but now Adrian with a base hit puts a runner in scoring position, and the batter will be Justin Turner. So Adrian holding at first. Rollins down the line from third. 2 out. Justin Turner making another valuable contribution to the Dodgers, hitting .288, but almost .300 in the month of May. He takes a look at an off-speed pitch for a strike, and the count 0-1. As we mentioned, the scouts seem to pick the changeup a little better than the slider, and of course the number 1 pitch on which he commands the game is his sinking 2-seam fastball. Strike 1 pitch on the way to Turner, and that's low and inside. Fastball at 91. 1-1 the count. Turner has 5 home runs, 17 runs batted in. First and third, 2 out. First inning, no score. 1-1 pitch on the way, hits him on the left side, and the bases will be loaded for Andre Ethier. So Justin Turner is nailed. That's first time this year that he's been hit. Got him just below the belt on the left hip. Of course, with Justin Turner, he raises and extends that left leg. He doesn't have much of a chance to get out of the way of a pitch way inside. So two local boys, Justin Turner visiting with Freddie Freeman at first. The bases are loaded with 2 out. And in a moment, Andre Ethier will be coming up. So Ethier with the bases loaded, you might wonder. He has 4 grand slams. The last one he hit was in 2012, and he hit it in Seattle. So the Dodgers stung in the first inning yesterday. Remember the grand slam home run by Justin Upton? Now they've certainly been given an opportunity to get out in front. Williams Perez has given up 2 hits in the inning, and both of the hits came on 3-ball counts. So he doesn't have the kind of stuff to just blow you away if he's behind in the count. So the base is loaded, the pitch to Andre, and that's low, ball 1. Rollins at third, Gonzalez at second, Turner at first, 2 out, no score. Andre waiting. Out of a stretch goes Williams Perez, and the next pitch floats a straight changeup. It looked like a balloon and someone had cut the string. It just floated away. 2 balls and no strikes to count. Perez has made 22 pitches, and he has a 2-0 count. Andre waiting, and the right-hander Perez delivers. Fastball away, ball 3. So he's given up 2 hits on 3-ball counts, and he immediately goes 3-0 to Andre Ethier. Now, if you were the skipper, would you let Ethier swing 3-0? Here comes the pitch. Ethier looks at a strike, and the count 3-1. Might be a 2-seam fastball, but he's been throwing them up. So Mattingly now has flashed out his thinking on a 3-1 count. And the pitch from Perez, fastball on the outside corner. And that's more like the pitch we're looking for. And it seemed to have a little sink at the end of it. That's the 2-seamer. So 3-2, the runners will be going. Rollins, Gonzalez, and Turner. 2 out, no score. Perez out of a stretch. His 26th pitch is taken for ball 4. Dodgers get a run, and everybody moves up 90 feet. Ethier picking up a run batted in. Turner goes to second. Gonzalez goes to third, and Rollins brings in the run. So for Roger McDowell, the pitching coach, and a sweetheart of a guy, and I'm sure the Braves pitchers idolize him. He was such a popular player with the Mets and the Dodgers. So a tough moment for him. And Scott Van Slyke climbs in, and he is almost hit. The pitch inside gets away from Bethancourt. However, not far enough for a runner to advance. Now Siriaco comes over to try and talk to his pitcher. Almost got away. Of course, that was a little strange, too, the way Bethancourt fielded that pitch with the bases loaded. And you would have expected him, especially it's only the first inning, you would have expected him to really move that body over and block it. The 1-0 pitch on the way, slow and in there. The changeup at 78. So a 3-pitch pitcher, sinking fastball, slider, and a changeup. The 1-1 pitch on the way to Scott Van Slyke, taken low and away, ball 2. So the Dodgers have Gonzalez at third, Turner at second, Ethier at first. And now Bethancourt into a crouch, and his pitcher behind again, 2-1. Perez delivers, fastball high, ball 3. Williams Perez just turned 24 years old. Last Thursday, in fact. Here's his 31st pitch, swung on, fly ball, shallow right. Peterson out, Markakis in, and it is Peterson making a sliding catch in right field. By the way, Nick Markakis, who is charging in from right field. He has a 369-game errorless streak going back to 2012. The record is 392, so keep an eye on him. It's 1-0 Dodgers. Three, and now here come the Braves. Johnny Gomes will lead it off, the right-hand hitting left fielder. Gomes comes up from Petaluma, actually comes down from Petaluma and takes a strike, and they count 0-1. Grew up sitting in the grandstands in Oakland's ballpark, never in his wildest dreams thinking that he'd make it to the big leagues. Next pitch, roller to the left of short. Up with it is Jimmy Rollins, makes the play on a bang play at first, and Johnny Gomes is retired. So one away in the second inning. Andrelton Simmons coming up. Andrelton Simmons from Curacao went to Western Oklahoma State. That's a long way to go from Curacao. I guess college scouts are everywhere. And that was true. It was a college coach at Western Oklahoma State, junior college, who was on a scouting tour, went all the way to Curacao, and the next thing you know, this young man has a college education. I don't know if he still does it or not. The 1-0 pitch is swung on, hit in the air to center. Late start by Peterson, but he goes back to flag it anyway. 2 down. Simmons, when he first came up to the big leagues, on his glove, he had written God-given. Well, he's right. 2 down. Pedro Ciriaco coming up. Alberto Callaspi was supposed to start the game. At the last minute, they had to make a lineup change. So Pedro is in there, hitting .167. He's only had 18 at-bats. He's from San Pedro de Macorís. Takes a look at a strike, and the count 0-1. Ciriaco, long and lean, 6 feet, maybe 170, maybe. And the strike one pitch on the way, swung on, flared to right. Ethier coming on, but it's going to drop. No play at first, so he lobs it back in. So a pop fly single to right. And with 2 down, the batter will be Christian Bethancourt. Bethancourt, been coached by the bullpen coach Eddie Perez, and Eddie Perez spent 11 years in the majors. And he thinks about Bethancourt something like Benito Santiago. Well, if you remember Santiago, He won 3 Gold Gloves and 4 Silver Slugger awards. So if Bethancourt can do anything like that, the Braves have themselves quite a player. Right-hand batter takes a look at a strike. Bethancourt is from Panama. He was a star member of the Panamanian team at the Little League World Series back in 2004. Strike one pitch is instead throw to first. So a 2-out fly ball single to right. Dodgers lead 1-0. Tough inning for Williams Perez, making 31 pitches, but he got out of it. There's a one-hopper by the diving Kendrick into center for a base hit. Holding at second is Siriaco. So the Braves come right back. 2-out singles by Siriaco and Bethancourt, and Williams Perez coming up. Kendrick diving, but that was long gone. 2 on, 2 out. That's 3 hits of Anderson. Williams Perez, in looking at his brief time with the Braves, he is 0 for 1. Right-hand batter checks in. Anderson delivers, and the first pitch a little low, ball 1. For Brett Anderson, this will be his 90th start. As we mentioned in our opening remarks, although his record appears identical, he's pitched so much better in May. He has 1 win and 1 loss in April, 1 win and 1 loss in May, but the ERA in April over 5, and the ERA in May is 1. However, he's been beaten up a bit in this situation. Pitches swung on and missed, 1 and 2. With runners in scoring position, the hitters have roughed him up, batting .351. So Brett trying to take advantage of the opposing pitcher, who strikes out. So Anderson gets out of a little scrape. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left. And at the end of an inning and a half, 1-0 Dodgers. I guess you could label this lest we forget. As you know, we usually honor a member of the armed forces before every game, and here's the one today. A warm Dodger Stadium welcome to our military hero of the game, Army Captain Christopher Kahn, and he stood there at attention, received the plaudits of the crowd, and then did something to remind everyone who recognized what he was showing just what this day is all about. He held up a small 5x7 picture. The picture showed at quick glance maybe 7 or 8 rifles erect, stuck in the ground with a helmet on top of each rifle. And you knew exactly what he was talking about, the 7 or 8 men who were killed while he did his service in Iraq. It was just in the blink of an eye, but for those of us who saw it, what a tremendous reminder. A.J. Ellis now has 2 strikes on him, 0-2 the count. Dodgers lead 1-0. Perez works in a hurry, comes back with a sinker, grounded to Freddie Freeman, first baseman on the bag for the out. So 1 out, second inning.
Pitcher, number 35, Brett Anderson.
For the Braves, they had a 2-out single for Freeman, but they left him. They had 2 base hits in the second with 2 out, and the pitcher struck out. The Dodgers had Peterson lead off with a double. They tried to bunt him to third, and he was nailed, but the Dodgers still wound up scoring a run, and that's when Ethier walked with the bases loaded. Checking in now and waiting, and taking a strike is Brett Anderson. 1 out, second inning, 1-0 Dodgers. The pitch off the corner, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Williams, that's with an S. The 1-1 pitch, foul back, 1-2. 1 out, second inning, 1-0 Dodgers. Last year, the Dodgers pretty much had their own way with Atlanta. They beat them 6 out of 7, all 3 here. The 1-2 change is on the outside corner. That takes care of Anderson, and we have 2 down. You know, friends, you can receive your very own stylish Dodger coaster set presented by Arco. The first 40,000 fans in attendance get theirs when the Dodgers face the Braves. That's Wednesday at 7:10. For more information, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Remember, for the Dodgers, they will finish up tying a ribbon on the package. Kershaw tomorrow night, and Greinke the concluding game of the series and the homestand. So Clayton holding the ball and waiting his turn. Slow breaking ball, a strike to Peterson. We have 2 Petersons, each leading off. One the second baseman, the other center fielder. Strike 1, pitch way inside. The second baseman, Peterson, spells it with a T. Jock spells it with a D. 1-1 pitch on the way. Line drive, base hit into right field. So a 2-out single by Jock Peterson, and that'll bring up Jimmy Rollins. So Peterson got a pop fly double, but now a line drive single. Of course, for Peterson, he has running speed, but he has not the knowledge of all of the pitches he's looking at for the first time. Peterson has stolen 2, but he's been caught 4 times. Rollins tried to bunt for a base hit. Instead, they nailed Peterson trying to go from second to third. Jimmy takes ball 1. 1-0 the count. 1 run, 3 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 3 hits for Atlanta. 1-0 pitch on the way. A look by Rollins. It's off the plate. 2 balls and no strikes. So for Williams Perez, he's having a problem pitching behind. Now his 2-0 pitch on the way, and Rollins takes high and inside, though there's another 3-ball count. Perez was named the Braves Double-A minor league MVP last year for Mississippi. When they called him up, he was 2-0. He gets a strike. In his couple of games in 5 starts, he struck out 27 in the minor leagues. So in 7 years in the minors, he's 30-23. 3-1 pitch, ground ball to the right side. The quick goes to first base, and the Dodgers leave Peterson. So no runs, 1 hit, a man left. And at the end of 2, it remains Dodgers 1, Braves nothing. Big crowd at Dodger Stadium. 1-0 Dodgers in the third. Jace Peterson, the second baseman who runs very well, will lead it off. And the first pitch is outside, ball one. Peterson went to school at McNeese State. He was the shortstop, and he was also a cornerback on their football team. The 1-0 pitch on the way, swung on and fouled away. While he was in college, he set a school record with 78 stolen bases. The Padres sent him to Atlanta, and they acquired Justin Upton. Jace waiting, and the 1-1 pitch on the way. Check swing, no swing, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike. Mike Estabrook is the plate umpire. Dana DeMuth at first, Paul Nauert at second, Ed Hickok at third. 2-1 pitch, and that's a little low. Ball 3. 3-1. Though Anderson works quickly enough, rarely wanders far from the rubber. And the next pitch, a ground ball to the right side. Up with it is Kendrick to make the play. So 1 out in the third. And the batter will be Cameron Maybin, who has a 9-game hitting streak. Frustrated on that bloop double by Jock Peterson. Cameron gave it his best shot, but couldn't quite get to it. So here is Maybin. Dodgers certainly know all about him. They've been pitching to him or against him, however you want to put it, for quite a while. And the first pitch to Cameron in for a strike. He was originally signed by the Tigers, and it's kind of nice for him to tell the grandkids someday, my first major league hit was against Roger Clemens. Cameron is 6'3", 220. Swings, ground ball to short. Nice hop for Jimmy Rollins. And just like that, couple of ground balls and 2 out. In fact, so far, we've had really just 1 ball hit in the air. That was the fly ball by Simmons to center field. So Freddie Freeman, with the infield swung all the way around to first, with Howie Kendrick 20 feet out in right field, no one at third base, and Freddie takes ball 1. Freeman has 5 home runs, 22 RBIs. His ground ball would normally have just been a ground ball to the third baseman. The 1-0 pitch checked, and it's low, ball 2, 2-0. Freddie, an outstanding young ball player, and figures to be a major contributor to the Braves for many years to come. Last year, 18 home runs, 78 runs batted in. Big golf swing to try and lift that pitch, failed to do it, and the count 2-1. 2-1 pitch coming up. Anderson back, another one, a ground ball, but this time it's foul outside of third. When that left home plate, you thought might have another one, and he has kind of a sheepish grin on his face. For Freddie, last year he was only one of 3 players who played all games for his team. He swings and strikes out. The others were Hunter Pence and Starlin Castro. So down he goes, 1-2-3 for Anderson, and at the end of 2.5 innings, 1-0 Dodgers. We're looking at our own particular Miss America, sitting in Dad's lap, actually standing. Beautiful red, white, and blue outfit. God bless her. Great to see her. And we go to the third, 1-0 Dodgers. Kendrick, Gonzalez, and Turner. Perez ready to pitch. I mean, he's not going to wander around out there at all. Pitch swung on, fouled away, and the count 1-1 strike. Kendrick's been fighting it. Howie's average dipping below 300, hitting 293. And the next pitch is high. 2 balls, 1 strike. You know, an asterisk footnote about Freddie Freeman without interfering with the pitches. So we'll duck it in after the pitch. 2-1 pitch to Kendrick. Change for a strike. We talked about Freeman playing in every game. He led the majors. He played in 1,449 innings last year. Talk about a grind. 2-2 pitch on the way. Poke down the line. Just there. Inside the chalk. Over to get it, Markakis. And holding on with a single is Howie Kendrick. So Kendrick just did get that inside the line. He'll take it gratefully, and that'll bring up Adrian Gonzalez. Just almost right on the chalk, in fact. So the Dodgers get their leadoff man aboard twice in 3 innings. Adrian Gonzalez single to the gap in left center in the first inning. And promptly fouls the first pitch away. 0-1 the count. Adrian, 9 home runs, 32 runs batted in. By the way, you know, you talk about the Giants and how well they're playing, and of course shutting out the Dodgers 3 times. That was really something. Strike 1 pitch is a strike. 0-2. In today's lineup for San Francisco, they won 8-4. 7 of the 8 position players finished the game hitting at least 293. 7 of the 8. Here's the strike 2 pitch inside. The one who didn't, Buster Posey's replacement, the young catcher Andrew Susac, hitting 227. By the way, Posey's hitting 310, and he has a 16-game hitting streak. There's a little flare to right. Going out is Peterson, a diving circus catch, throws to first, not in time. What a play by Jace Peterson. He is really something to watch. Wow. Tremendous effort by Jace. He's out of Moss Bluff, Louisiana, but there was no bluffing on that one. He just made a great play. He was a first-round pick by the Padres 4 years ago. Marvelous play. So Gonzalez losing a pop fly single. Holding on is Kendrick. And the batter, Justin Turner. Perez on the rubber. He's ready to go right away. Williams, a high set up around the bill of the cap. Throws to first. Kendrick diving back to the bag. Howie Kendrick has stolen 2 bases, but he's also been caught twice. Perez delivers, and this one is off the plate. Ball 1, 1-0. Justin Turner was hit on the left hip in the first inning. 1-0 Dodgers, bottom of the third, knowing full well the Giants had won 8-4. Throw to first. Again, Kendrick back. Dodgers 1 run, 4 hits. Atlanta no runs, 3 hits. Dodgers scored a run, but they also left 3 in the first inning. And the next pitch, ground ball up the middle. Base hit for Turner. Kendrick will hold as Maben comes up ready to throw. So the Dodgers are getting their base hits in every inning, and the batter will be Andre Ethier. So Turner hit by a pitch, a first at bat, singles to center. Kendrick moves up a notch. 2 on, 1 out. Maben quickly ready, and that stops Kendrick at second base. So Justin gets something going here. Ethier walked with the bases loaded to force in a run, giving him his 16th RBI. Andre batting .304. Perez making a few pitches now. He's already made 57. 1 out. And the out, remember, was that dazzling catch by Jace Peterson. Pitch to Ethier, foul back. 0-1 the count. Game 1 of the 3-game series, and it should be a dandy series before the Dodgers go on the road. Tehran going against Kershaw, Wood going against Greinke. 0-1 the count to Andre Ethier. Perez ready, right-handed delivers, and this one glowing away. 1 ball and 1 strike, that 2-seam fastball. Perez trying to get a ground ball, trying to get a double play, trying to get out of the inning. Now the 1-1 pitch is instead a pickoff play, but to no avail. Kendrick back to the bag. Interesting what a team will do with runners in scoring position. The number 1 team right now is Colorado, then Atlanta, then San Diego, and number 7 would be the Dodgers. 1-1 pitch on the way, taken, slapped into left field for a base hit. Charging it is Gomes, stopping at third is Kendrick, and the Dodgers have the bases loaded again. So Ethier going the other way. Bases loaded, 1 out. And Scott Van Slyke coming up. Nice bit of hitting by Andre Ethier. So Scott Van Slyke coming up. He does not have a grand slam, and there'll be another meeting at the mound that'll give us a chance to talk about hitting with runners in scoring position. Colorado, number 1, hitting .322. Atlanta, number 2, hitting .296. Number 3, the Dodgers, hitting .275. What's really interesting, after telling you what we did about the Giant lineup, they don't make the call, as they say in, I guess, the racetrack. Anyway, bases loaded, 1 out, 1-0 Dodgers, trying to jump out in front. Perez now has made 60 pitches. I mean, he's on a pace to make 180 pitches in the 9th inning, and there's no way he's going to be able to do that. So they're out there, Messrs. Kendrick, Turner, and Ethier, and here is Scott Van Slyke. Perez out of his stretch, right-hander ready and delivers. Van Slyke takes inside. 1 ball and no strikes. Tough inning for Freddie Gonzalez to start the series. 1-0 pitch is taken low. So Perez now 2-0 with the bases loaded, 1 out. Dodgers leading 1-0. Perez out of his stretch. His 2-0 pitch, and that is just missing. Ball 3. So he's had a bunch of 3-ball counts. Seems like every time you look up, you're saying 3-0, 3-1, and he's just off the plate. He's had 6 3-ball counts, and we're only in the 3rd inning. So the 3-0 pitch to Van Slyke, swung on, ground ball to short. They are going to get a double play. So the Dodgers 1 pitch from scoring, instead 1 pitch from a huge double out. The 6-4-3 double play. Perez escapes. Dodgers leave 2, and at the end of 3, it's still 1-0 Dodgers. is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. With an EPA estimated 30 highway MPG, this car was made for driving in California. Visit Dodge.com today. Fourth inning, 1-0 in favor of the Dodgers. Williams Perez really getting out of a jam. He's made 64 pitches in 3 innings, but he's only down 1-0. Now it'll be Markakis, Gomes, and Simmons in that order. Ball 1. A few moments ago, we were talking about the National League teams batting with runners in scoring position. Atlanta second with a team batting average of .296. Well, you know, there are no less than 9 Braves who are hitting better than .300 with runners in scoring position. Little ground ball to the right side. Kendrick is on it. Markakis came up to the plate with 49 hits and no home runs. 49 hits would be 4th most hits among players without a home run. But again, remember, he had a serious neck surgery, and they figure his power will come later on. Meanwhile, he's a fine player. So 1 away, and Johnny Gomes checking in, grounded to short, 0 for 1. Johnny, to make the understatement of the day, has had a very tough life. We can give you maybe 1 or 2 stories. We don't want to get into too much of the privacy area. Let's start when he was 12. He was doing work on his grandmother's house, and a hired hand showed up with a wolf on a leash. Here's the 2-0 pitch. 2-1. Anyway, Johnny loved dogs. He had never owned one, though he had no idea about how serious a wolf might be. So he walked up to the wolf, and the man hollered at him, "No, it's a real wolf. Don't pet it." The 2-1 pitch in. Well, the man ties up the wolf, goes around the corner to mend the fence, and Johnny goes back to the wolf, saying something like, "Oh, I'll talk to him. It'll be great." And the wolf attacks him, has knocked him down on his chest, just about ready to devour him. 2-2 pitch, check swing, no swing, ball 3. Johnny suddenly, totally and completely relaxed. He was done. He knew it. And whatever he did by relaxing, the wolf decided, I don't have a rival here. And the wolf got off his chest. Johnny got up and walked away. Ground ball by the diving Turner, and the base hit by Johnny Gomes. So a 1-out single left by the Wolfman, and that'll bring up Simmons. Anderson Simmons, the shortstop, fly to center in the 2nd inning. Simmons hitting .247. Over the last 2 weeks, that covers 13 games plus today, he's had 8 hits and 52 at bats. That's a little less than a buck and a half. So he's hungry. Ball 1. Simmons from Curacao. First team he ever saw on television from the island were the Braves, and especially watching quite a player named Andrew Jones. The book, in a sense, about Simmons says an aggressive hitter usually makes something happen during the first 3 pitches of an at-bat. Well, he's had 2, so we'll see. Good discipline to take that pitch, ball 3. Simmons, a superb defensive player. Last 2 years, he has not hit as well as they had hoped. That's a strike. 3-1. Simmons, when playing shortstop, has a rifle arm. Nubbed out in front. It will be the pitcher. Anderson throws low. What a pick by Adrian Gonzalez. Whoa. Marvelous play by a Gold Glove first baseman. Down to second base goes Johnny Gomes. So Anderson comes down to make the play. Simmons hustling down the line. So you're looking at the backside, elbows, kneecaps. He bounced it, and somehow looking into all of that, Adrian Gonzalez stayed with the hop. Nice play. 2 down, tying run at second base. Dodgers have 6 hits, 1 run. No runs, 4 hits for the Braves. Pedro Ciriaco playing for Alberto Callaspo, who at the last minute was taken out of the lineup. That's ball 1, 1-0. Callaspo, a switch hitter, was hitting .206. Ciriaco comes in hitting .167. You may remember Alberto Callaspo. He's been around a while. Good buddy of Eric Ibar of the Angels. As a line drive base hit. Here comes the tying run. Peterson up with it, makes the throw. No play. Then it gets away from Ellis, but he didn't have a play. And down to second on the throw goes Ciriaco. And we have a 1-1 tie. So Gomes singles to left, and with 2 out, Ciriaco singles him in. So again, the Braves with an overall good hitting lineup with runners in scoring position. So 1-1 top of the 4th. 1 run, 5 hits for the Braves. 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. Bethancourt is coming up, and they're going to walk him intentionally. They will put him aboard and try to get out of the inning against Williams Perez. Bethancourt singled in the second inning, so they're not going to monkey around with him. That would be the first walk given up by Brett Anderson, who does not walk very many. And in a moment, Williams Perez, the pitcher who struck out with runners at first and second in the second inning, he'll be coming up. Dodgers left the bases loaded in the first inning. They left 1 on in the second, and they left 2 more in the third. So the Dodgers have left 6. And we'll see now, with runners at first and second, what the Braves do. Williams, right-hand batter, looks at ball 1. Perez just 1 at bat. Nothing to show for it prior to tonight, and he struck out here. However, Anderson in a hurry, and I think Ellis has gone out there to slow him down a little bit. 2 balls and no strikes the count. 2 down, top of the 4th, a 1-1 tie. Braves are in 3rd place in the National Leagues. They are 3.5 games behind Washington, and they can't beat Washington. Washington has beaten Freddie's club 5 out of 6. 2-0 pitch in there. Anderson, for whatever reason in the 4th inning, has been ball 1 to every hitter in the inning. 2-1 the count to Perez. Red ready. Fastball swung and missed. Actually got a piece of it, so it's a foul ball. It's dead, and the runners hold at first and second. So the deuce is wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, and 2 on in a 1-1 tie. Beautiful afternoon after that drab morning. And an off-speed pitch, and Perez strikes out again. However, Braves get a run, leave 2. They've left 5, and at the end of 3.5, we have a 1-1 tie. Fans in attendance June 4th receive a Kenley Jansen bobblehead presented by State Farm. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. 1 run, 5 hits for Atlanta. They have left 5. 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. They have left 6. There have been a lot of wasted opportunities so far. And to the bottom of the 4th inning, and the Dodgers will have A.J. Ellis, followed by Brett Anderson, and then Jock Peterson. Wilson Perez had a problem in the 1st inning. Williams made 31 pitches, so he's made 64 in 3 innings. Ellis grounded to first in the 2nd inning. Strike. 0-1. And that slides in nicely. Off speed. 0-2. One and two. When Perez made his first major league start against Tampa Bay, he struck out 7 and he got 7 ground ball outs. It was only 1 line drive out. 2-2. He had the bases loaded in that game and came up with a double play. Two and two. So A.J. Ellis goes down swinging, and we have 1 away in the 4th inning.
Number 35, Brett Anderson.
3 strikeouts for Williams Perez. As we mentioned, he had 7 against the Rays. Anderson, his opposing pitcher, struck out 0 for 1. In there. One ball and 1 strike. Fouled away off third, out of play. Two and two. Williams Perez from Venezuela. Oh yeah, good pitch. Little breaking ball to take care of Anderson. 4 strikeouts for Perez. Take a look at that.
Number 31,
Up there, and then just dropped in nicely. So with 2 out, Jock Peterson got a pop fly double in the 1st inning and a line drive single to right in the 2nd inning. Dodgers have had at least 1 man on base in every inning. Peterson on the upswing with a double and a single, so his average, which had been down about 234, is now back up to 248. Ball 1. And he falls behind for the umpteenth time. Well, you talk about pitching uphill. He's made 76 pitches in 3 2/3 innings. Freddie Gonzalez on the left. Roger the Dodger, McDowell the pitching coach on the right. 2 balls, no strikes. Dropped that in nicely. Another changeup. 2-1. They rate fastball, of course, the most important, but then the changeup. There's the fastball. 2-2. So they rate his changeup better than his slider. Three and two. So he's had umpteen 3-ball counts, and with 2 down in the 4th inning, trying to retire the side for the first time. 1, 2, 3. And he retires him. So the off-speed pitch, Perez winds up striking out the side. That gives him 5 strikeouts. And at the end of 4, it's a 1-1 tie. Tonight, join Alana Rizzo and Don Mattingly. They'll bring you an inside look at the best moments of the week on and off the field. Don't miss Dodger Clubhouse tonight at 9 on Sportsnet LA. So they're locked in at 1. Jace Peterson, who runs like the wind, takes a strike. Exciting player. Dodgers have to defend against the bunt. Gonzalez and Turner shorten up. 1 ball and 1 strike to Jace. 1 run, 5 hits for Atlanta. 1-1, 6 hits for the Dodgers. 5th inning. Fouled off. Tomorrow, Clayton Kershaw, Julio Teheran, and then the concluding game, Zach Greinke and Alex Wood. One and 2. Off speed and promptly banged up the middle. So Jace Peterson with his speed, remember 78 stolen bases in college, and he's made 2 dazzling plays defensively by covering a lot of ground. So Jace with the base hit, now Cameron Maybin and then Freddie Freeman. Gonzalez going to the mound to talk to Anderson, so timeout for the moment. Maybin hitting .252. In May, he's been hitting .308. As we mentioned, he has a 9-game hitting streak. And they pick off the runner. Gonzalez throw to Rollins in time to get him. So yes, Peterson runs well, shakes his head. A good play and a good call by AJ. So for Freddie, nice pickoff by Anderson, the accurate throw to Rollins, and a runner hung out to dry. Cameron Maybin up there and breaking ball for ball 1. So 1 run, 6 hits for each side. 2-0. And that's high, ball 3. Peterson, by the way, had stolen 4 out of 7. So he's now 4 out of 8. And that's followed by a walk to Maben. And it brings up the club's big hitter, Freddie Freeman.
Number 5, Freddie Freeman.
Freddie Freeman in his last 10 games, and he's 1 for 2 today. So he's had 8 hits in his last 41 at bats. He's too good a hitter to hang around at that number. And ball 1. We're in the 5th. High and tight, didn't hit him, goes to the backstop, and down to second on that wild pitch goes Cameron Maben. So the Dodgers gave up a base hit. They pick off the runner, and now a single. And let's see, Stan Conti is going out to the mound. Don Mattingly is going out. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Juan Nicasio is warming up. So let's just see what's going on here. When that pitch sailed high and away, you wonder, was that caused by a physical problem? We can see the pitch. I mean, that goes nowhere, but you notice how he looks down. So Anderson might have done something to a foot or an ankle on that pitch. Let's see, he lost his balance, and you see him look back like he was tripped. So Conti's still talking to him, and of course Anderson in a 1-1 tie in the 5th inning with a runner at second base. He will not come out of the game, not if he can help it. So Freeman waiting at the plate while Anderson gets a practice toss to make sure he's okay. And for Anderson, he's gone up against as tough a hitter as there is in the National League, with a runner in scoring position. The last 3 years, with a runner in scoring position and 2 out, Freddie has hit .333. So the Dodgers want to make sure Anderson is okay. This is no time to try to be a hero, but he's been around long enough to know it's best to come out if you're not 100%. You know, Anderson's been pitching as a pro for about 9 years. A lot of years with the A's, then the Rockies, and now the Dodgers. So Brett's ready. And here's Freeman, single to left and struck out. Big swing. 0-1. Freddie gives you a nice strike zone. He's a big man. He's 6'5", 225 pounds, from Fountain Valley. Lives in Orange. And promptly a one-hopper. Kendrick can't glove it in right field. And here comes the run easily. And Atlanta takes a 2-1 lead. So Freddie Freeman, who is dynamite with a runner in scoring position, comes up with his second hit. Run batted in. And the Braves are out in front. Kendrick in right field still couldn't get it. Backed up by Andre Ethier. Even had Kendrick gloved that ball, he wouldn't have had a play. Certainly not on Freeman, and maybe not even on Maben. He was so far away. Markakis hit back to the box, grounded to short, 0 for 2. Ball 1. Well, just to add another flower in the vase that's held by Freddie Freeman. That base hit with runners in scoring position, he's now hitting .412 in that position. A hard ground ball. Rollins on his knees to Kendrick. to first for the double play. So that ball almost got away, but Rollins able to grab it. 6-4-3 DP, but the run is in. 1 run, 2 hits and a walk, nobody left, and at the end of 4.5, 2-1 Atlanta. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Get to Nissan's ride of your life for exciting performance and surprising offers. Shop at ChooseNissan.com. And by DraftKings. Play daily fantasy baseball for free on DraftKings.com. Use promo code BlueCrew for free entry. 2-1 Braves, bottom of the 5th inning. And the pitch is strike to Jimmy Rollins. The Braves doing it as they have been doing it of late. You know, they came here having won 7 of the last 9, and they've hit only 1 home run in those 9 games. But they do it because of hitters like Freeman, who excel at hitting with runners in scoring position. Who hit the only home run? Jace Peterson, the second baseman, and that was 9 games ago. None other since, but they're leading 2-1. Ball 3. 2 runs, 7 hits, no error for Atlanta. 1 run, 6 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. And that's lifted to left field. Going back on it is Johnny Gomes to make the play. 1 away. A tough 1-run game, and the Braves are in their 17th 1-run game, and they've only played 44 games, including tonight. And 17 might be decided by 1. That's enough to make you keep your hat off. They're 8-8 in 1-run games. So 1 away, Howie Kendrick. Little slider for a strike. 0-1 the count. How are the Dodgers in 1-run games? So-so. 6-7. Certainly not impressive. Little ground ball to Jace Peterson. That'll do it as one second baseman throws out the other. And Adrian Gonzalez coming up.
Number 23, Adrian Gonzalez.
Adrian Gonzalez is so good, in all honesty, that they're keeping track how long it will be since he hits another home run. He is homerless in 16 games since May the 5th. You have to be awfully good when they're starting to remember the last time you hit a home run. 9 home runs, 32 runs batted in. 1-1. Adrian with Turner on deck. That's off the plate. Ball 2. And ball 3. Gonzalez, when they talk about his home runs, his best year, he hit 40 for the San Diego Padres. 3-1. Fastball on the corner. Last year he hit 27. He also hit 36 for the Padres. Full count, 2 out. 5th inning, 2-1 Braves. A line drive base hit. Going over to get it is Markakis. Gonzalez rounding and holding on with a 2-out single to right. So Adrian is 2 for 3, and the one time they got him is when Jace Peterson, the second baseman, went out and made that dazzling diving catch. Otherwise he'd be 3 for 3. Normally, when you're ahead in the count and you get ahead in quite a few counts, you're going to do very well. The Dodgers have to be very frustrated. The last 5 at-bats that went to a 3-ball count, they're 0-5. And there's ball 1. To let a pitcher continually pitch from behind and have just 1 run to show for it, those hitters have to be muttering to themselves. Turner hit by a pitch, single to center, and pops it up. Back to first. Freeman coming over. Leans in, no play. Justin batting .296. Braves 2 runs, 7 hits. Dodgers 1 run, 7 hits. Bottom of the 5th. Good fastball. Wide open swing. 1-2 the count. So he's up to 96 pitches. He's been averaging just about 20 pitches an inning. And they get somebody up in the bullpen. Strike 3 call. That was something. The plate umpire, maybe he said it, but by the time he signaled, well, they were walking off the field. Mike Estabrook, the plate umpire. So Perez does it again, and at the end of 5, it's 2-1 Braves. Your Southern California Toyota dealers. Save big on any 2015 Camry now at the Toyota Time Sales Event. 2-1 in favor of the Braves. We go to the 6th inning before a big crowd, and it'll be Johnny Gomes followed by Simmons and then Siriaco. Gomes grounded to short, single to left, 1 for 2. We were talking earlier about what a tough life Johnny Gomes has had, and that's really an understatement. We talked about the wolf. That was enough to scare anybody to death. Check swing, little roller. Gonzalez cut him off of the pass. Johnny Gomes and his best pal were going to take a ride in a car owned by a girl who had a girlfriend. The girl sat up front. Gomes and his best pal were going to sit in the back. And he and the best pal flipped a coin as to who's going to sit where in the back of the car. Gomes wound up sitting behind the driver, and his pal sat to the right. And the young girl, whatever happened while driving the car, got out of control. A drive to center. Peterson got a good jump and makes the play. Without the jump, could not possibly have gotten out. Nice play by Jock Peterson. Take another look.
Number 13.
Jock immediately reacting and had to really put out to make the catch. Anyway, the two boys flipped it. Johnny got whatever he called and sat behind the driver. His best friend sat alongside of him, and they had a terrible accident. The girl driver lost control. John survived, and his best buddy sitting alongside, who lost the coin toss, was killed. He has a tattoo with the initials of his best buddy on his arm. 1 ball and 1 strike. Siriaco hitting .250. He's in there because Callaspo unable to play. 1-2. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 6th inning, they have Ethier, Van Slyke, and Ellis. All of a sudden is Callaspo on the railing eating a candy bar. Perez has done a great job of late. Ground foul. Perez has 6 strikeouts, struck out the side in the 4th, gave up just 1 hit in the 5th. So Anderson finds himself in a tough spot, trailing and due to bat 4th when his club hits, and Perez very interested. Ground foul. Remember, Perez just recently called up, so this means a great deal to him, making his big league debut May the 8th, and now trying to pick up his first major league victory today. 2-2. Bethancourt, the catcher, on deck. Fastball and a soft diving catch by Howie Kendrick. And at the end of 5.5, with that play worth looking at a second time, Howie snares it, and it is still 2-1 Atlanta. Philadelphia. They beat the Phillies 6-0. The most important thing was the patch that the Dodger pitcher had pitched. That's right. Josh Beckett pitching a no-hitter. Struck out 6, walked 3. And the interesting thing, when the game was over, almost immediately by the time the Dodgers got into the clubhouse, the Phillies sent over a gift. What was the gift? It was the pitching rubber from the mound. As Josh said, I'll take that home to my ranch, and I'm sure it's in a prized possession in his house. Let's go back to this one. Two to one in favor of Atlanta. Andre Ethier came up with the bases loaded and walked to drive in a run, and then single a left, but was doubled up on Van Slyke's ground ball. Ground ball to short. Simmons makes his play. One away.
Number 33, Scott Van Slyke.
Anderson has made only 89 pitches and has allowed 2 runs, and he's losing to Williams Perez, who is ready to make his 100th pitch, and he's backed up by right-hander Nick Massett in the bullpen. Van Slyke flied out with the bases loaded in the first inning and came up and hit into a double play with the bases loaded in the third. That's a tough day for a professional ball player. 1 ball and no strikes in there. Two runs, 7 hits for Atlanta. 1 run, 7 hits for the Dodgers. Little foul ball. Van Slyke, and of course it happens. In 21 home games this year, he's hitting .327. He's been struggling of late. And that really caps a rough day. 7 strikeouts for Perez. 2 out in the 6th inning. And the batter is A.J. Ellis. Yeah, you're right. Have not heard a word about Carl Crawford. No idea. A.J. Ellis grounded out, struck out, 0 for 2. And good fastball at 92. Adam Libator getting up in the Dodger bullpen. Juan Uribe now is out on deck to bat for Anderson. 1 ball and 1 strike to A.J. Ellis. So Uribe waits. And that's hit to left. Going back for it is Gomes, but he's got plenty of room. The other side retired again. In the last 3 innings, Perez has done a complete turnabout. He's allowed just 1 hit. And at the end of 6, 2-1, Atlanta. Be sure to come on out June the 9th, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, and be one of the first 40,000 fans in attendance. Receive a Jock Peterson t-shirt presented by Edmunds and Dopp. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. All right, 7th inning. Christian Bethancourt has singled and was walked intentionally. Big change, dropping low, ball 1. Anderson is due to lead off when the Dodgers bat in the bottom of the 7th. 1-1 to Bethancourt. Dodgers scored a run in the 1st inning, but the Braves came back with a run in the 4th and a run in the 5th. Due up next is Williams Perez. EY Jr., Eric Young Jr. comes out on deck. 2-1. Hit late. Gonzalez takes it to the bag, and we have one away. So here's Young, EY.
Pinch hitting for the Braves, number 4, Eric Young Jr.
Eric Young Jr., who, by the way, as the years go flying by, Eric's 30 years old, right around now. In fact, happy birthday, Eric Young. His birthday is today. So Williams Perez did a great job. 1 run, 7 hits, made 106 pitches, a chopper to Turner, 2 down. Down in the Atlanta bullpen, the left-hander Louis Avalon begins to warm up. So with 2 out, 7th inning, here's Jace Peterson. 2 ground balls to Kendrick, and then a single in the 5th inning. Remember, he was at first base, broke early. Dodgers picked him off. 2-0. Braves began the day 3.5 back of Washington. Dodgers began 2 in front of the Giants, but the Giants won today. 2-1. Perez did a remarkable job. He had only 5 swings and misses on his 106 pitches, but he got the job done and struck out 7. And the key, the fact that after hitting a batter and walking one in the 1st inning, he never did either again. That's to the backstop. 3-2. So Williams Perez sitting in the back. That was quite an effort. The Dodgers had so many chances. In fact, the Dodgers stranded 6 men in the first 3 innings, and they really let him off the hook. 3-2 to Peterson, and a little pop fly. It's Rollins. Nice play by Jimmy. All right, 1, 2, 3 as far as the Braves are concerned. Now we will stay because of the importance of the day. In the middle of the 7th inning, we will hear God Bless America and then Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Now, fans, at this time we ask that you please rise and kindly remove your hats for the singing of God Bless America, performed tonight by Sergeant Vicky Golding, D.C. Army National Guard, our veteran Army Sergeant Victor Hurtado, and Lisa Pratt from Operation Rising Star winner and military spouse.
God bless America, land that I love. stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the 7th inning stretch presented by Coca-Cola.
Game you expect to see in the LCS or even the Division Series. New pitcher now, Luis Avilan from Caracas, Venezuela, will pick up after that great job turned in by Williams Perez. Juan Uribe comes off the bench, and he'll be batting for Anderson, who wound up making 101 pitches. So quite a pitching duel. Strike one pitch. Sprayed foul, 0-2. Uribe 2 for 4 as a pinch hitter. Brett Anderson did a great job, but the run in the 4th inning and then the run in the 5th has put him on the wrong side of the score after 100 pitches. 0-2. Fastball fouled away. Avilan is a 6'2", 200-pound left-hander. Signed by the Braves in 2006. When he signed, he was only 16 years old. First time up in the major leagues, July the 5th, 2012. He had an ERA that year of 2. Breaking ball, 1-2 the count. When he broke in, he faced the New York Mets, struck out the only batter he faced. Avilan will be 26. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Third base side of the rubber. And a 95. You don't see many left-handers throw 95 and above. You see a bunch of right-handers. Three and two. In May of 2013, Avilan was with the Braves, and Johnny Venters and Eric O'Flaherty had Tommy John surgery. That gave him a big break. Fastball away, ball 4. So the left-hander had walked 4 and struck out 13. Now the Dodgers get the tying run aboard, and Jock Peterson coming up. Dodgers had 1 walk and a hit batter from Williams Perez. Jock, a pop fly double just out of the reach of a diving Cameron Maybin. Line drive single to right and struck out in the 4th inning. Uribe, very short lead, and ball 1. There's another 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Crack bat, flare to left field. It is going to land. Runners will hold at first and second. You can hear that bat twang up here. And of course, Peterson will take all the twangs he can hear if he comes up with his 3rd hit. So he's had a pop fly double to center, a line drive single to right, and now that one a flare to left. So the Dodgers, first and second, nobody out. Braves are looking bunt, and Jimmy Rollins will be the batter. Nick Massett, who had been up earlier, is up again. Now remember, in the very first inning, Peterson was at second, nobody out. Rollins tried to bunt him to 3rd, and instead Bethancourt shot down Peterson trying to get into 3rd. Let's see about a possible bunt now. They're looking bunt. Freeman on his way. The bunt is down. The play is going to go to 3rd base on a hop in time to get the runner Uribe. So a nice play by Bethancourt to direct his pitcher, and Uribe out at second. Huge play.
Number 47, Howie Kendrick.
So twice the Dodgers have bunted, and each time they bunt into an out at 3rd base. Remember, it was a force play, so holding on to the ball, Siriaco, and Uribe is out. That goes 1-5. Rollins twice now unable to advance a runner. 2 on, 1 out, and here's Howie Kendrick. Struck out, single to right, grounded out. Fastball, fouled away. There's that 95er. Boy, he brings that to the game. 0-1. How good is Avilan? Well, he started this season with a career record of 10-1. It's one fastball after another. He's 2-0 so far this year. So his career record in the big leagues, 12 wins and 1 loss. They don't say anything in the book that we have on him, Avilan, except he throws a fastball anywhere from 88 to 95. And we've only seen fastballs up to now. 1-1. And another. It's one after the other. Howie Kendrick struck out, single to right, grounded to second. 2-1. Took a lot off that. That's a straight changeup. So in the exact same delivery motion, he dropped from 95 to 84. 2-2. Two balls, two strikes. Kendrick this year for the Dodgers hitting .371 with a runner in scoring position, and right now that's Peterson at second base. Fastball, and he gets above 95 for the first time. Now we've seen him throw two pitches basically, almost every one a fastball and one change. At one time they considered using him as a starting pitcher to work on all of his pitches. 2-2. Almost threw that away. So a hard throwing young left-hander out of Venezuela. 25 right now. First and second, one out. 3-2 to Kendrick. Waiting on deck, Adrian Gonzalez. And ball four, and they'll load him up for Adrian. Roger McDowell up the steps, going out to try and help the young left-hander. Adrian Gonzalez today, single to left in the first inning, popped into shallow right field, and that's when Jace Peterson made a diving catch to take a hit away from him. And then the next time up in the fifth inning, Gonzalez single to right. So he's almost 3 for 3. He is 2 for 3, and he's up here now in a jackpot spot. Has always been very successful, hitting .361 with the bases loaded. Now you have one out and the bases loaded. Gonzalez, with less than 2 outs and runners in scoring position, is hitting an amazing .556. With 2 outs, however, just .214. So the bases are loaded. Peterson, Rollins, and Kendrick. The only out was on the bunt and the throw to third. So Avilan facing Gonzalez. Justin Turner on deck. Fastball, little dribbler. Avilan almost falls down, but right to the runner. The run scores to tie up the game. Adrian will get an RBI. So he now has 999 runs batted in. Nice running into you. I guess that was the feeling when you watch Avilan. He's going to lunge for the ball, stagger, and Gonzalez has nowhere to go. Scoring is Peterson, and we have a 2-2 tie. Here's Avilan barely keeping his balance, and Gonzalez says, oh, okay, 2 out. So they're going to go to the bullpen. We'll be right back. and still a couple of more exciting games. Tomorrow night, Clayton Kershaw against Julio Teheran. And then the final game of the homestand, Zach Greinke will go up against Alan Wood. Dodgers then go on the road and, of course, go to a place of heartbreak and tears for them. They'll open up the new year on the road in St. Louis. After the St. Louis series, the Dodgers then will go to Colorado and then come home and play St. Louis and Arizona. Nick Massett, who has not been very successful with an opposition batting average of .304. So Nick going to work. Dodgers have runners at second and third. Rollins and Kendrick. And ball one. 1-0. In the inning, it started with a walk to Uribe. Then Peterson single to left, little flare. Rollins tried to bunt them up, and instead they got Uribe at third. Then Kendrick walked, and the run came on the little dribbler by Gonzalez. Ground ball to short with 2 out. The throw to first in time, and that's the inning. So Massett comes in, gets Turner. The Dodgers leave a couple, and at the end of 7, we have a 2-2 tie. Summary. Pedro Ciriaco, who was not going to start, Callaspo was supposed to start, couldn't do it. So instead, Ciriaco plays, and he has 2 singles and a run batted in. Freddie Freeman, as usual, the big hitter in the lineup with 2 singles and a key RBI. And Adrian Gonzalez hit that dribbler and the little bump with the pitcher Avilan, and 999 RBIs now for Adrian Gonzalez. One other thing, Luis Avilan made 24 relief appearances this year. He's made 13 appearances this month, and he had not allowed a run until today. So another fine young left-handed reliever. Meanwhile, talking about fine young left-handed reliever, here's Adam Liebertor with that great ERA of 1.6, facing Cameron Maybin, Freddie Freeman, and then Nick Markakis. 2-2, 8th inning. Starts him fastball strike, 0-1. Cameron Maybin has a 9-game hitting streak, twice grounded to short, walked, advanced on a wild pitch, and scored on a single by Freddie Freeman. Drops that breaking ball in there. 0-2. Liberatore is backed up by Yimi Garcia in the Dodger bullpen. Oh, 2. in the dirt. The Braves can really confuse you. Freddie's ball club started the year 6-1 and then took a nosedive. They went 9-18, and now they won 7 of the last 9. Fastball, 94. Maben with that 9-game streak. Then Freeman and Markakis. If anybody gets aboard, Johnny Gomes. Oh, they're getting ready. Check swing. Did he? No, he didn't. Dana DeMuth on the line at first. Two runs, 8 hits for Atlanta. 2 runs, 7 hits for the Dodgers. And we're in the 8th inning. And no swing. Dana DeMuth on the line at first base has been around. The definition of being around as an umpire, 31 years. So the crew chief has seen it all and heard it all, I'm sure. 3-2. Nice man. And a slicing fly ball down the line. Ethier in the corner in fair ground. So 1 away, top of the 8th inning. Freddie Freeman coming up.
Freddie Freeman.
Freddie putting up big numbers as usual. Freddie has as many as 23 home runs in his dossier. 23 home runs back-to-back years in 2012 and 2013. Dynamite with runners in scoring position. One ball and no strikes. Ground ball on the grass. Howie Kendrick. So the batter will be Nick Markakis. Hit back to the box, grounded to short, grounded into a double play. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 8th inning, Andre Ethier, Scott Van Slyke, and A.J. Ellis. Brandon Caniff is warming up in the Atlanta bullpen. There he is. Ethier, Van Slyke, and Ellis, and then the pitcher spot. So Yimi Garcia throwing in the Dodger bullpen. And a strike. 0-1. There's Jimmy getting ready. Slice down the line. Van Slyke coming over and picks it off. So the Braves' last hit was Freeman single in the 5th inning. We're heading for the bottom of the 8th in a 2-2 tie. a rather touching moment before the game to remind us exactly why we have the freedom to do what we're doing and the price that has been paid. Andre Ethier, 1 for 2. Ball 1. In the Dodger bullpen, now that we're in the bottom of the 8th, 2-2, Kenley Jansen begins to warm up. Liebertor made 11 pitches to retire the side in order. High drive into deep right center. Back goes Maven. It is gone. Ethier broke the tie. And it's 3-2 Dodgers. Andre Ethier hits his 6th home run of the year, picks up a 16th run batted in, and the Dodgers take a 3-2 lead. Way back at the very beginning of the game, we talked about the difference between the two teams. That home run now gives the Dodgers 58 home runs, and Atlanta, they have 26. 2-0 the count to Van Slyke. Massett just signed a deal to be with Atlanta on the 19th of May. So he is a brand new player. Been around a long time. And that's popped in the air in foul ground. Bethancourt coming back. No play. Take another look. Ethier with that nice full extension swing of his. And hits it to the deep part of the park, in the area of the hitter's background in center field, right in there. So it's 3-2 Dodgers trying to keep pace. Remember, the Giants won this afternoon. Dodgers need to win to stay 2 in front. Van Slyke fly to left. They let him swing 3-0 with the bases loaded, and Scotty grounded into a double play, and then last time up he struck out. 2-2. Fouled off. Off speed pitch. Got way out in front of it. Nick Massett comes in and is hit by a bolt of lightning. The bat of Andre Ethier. 2-2. Fastball popped in the air, foul, out of play. That must be tough. I mean, you're a veteran. You've bounced around. Been with a lot of clubs. Most recently, Miami. Massett had played for Texas, the White Sox, Cincinnati, Colorado, then Miami, and now just signed on and gives up the home run. To look ahead, when the Braves bat in the 9th, they'll have Johnny Gomes, Simmons, and Siriaco. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And down goes Scott. You have to just live through them, these bad days in this game.
Number 17, A.J. Ellis.
The ups and the downs. Ethier riding a cloud right now. And Scott Van Slyke putting his bat and helmet away. It's a lonely part of the game right there. So 1 out. A.J. Ellis coming up. Grounded out, struck out, fly to left. Ball 1. With Van Slyke striking out, the Dodgers have struck out 8 times today. Foul back. The paid attendance, 44,680. 44,680. Plus an Olympic candidate on the stairs. 2-1. Alex Guerrero comes out on deck. He would bat for Liberatore. We had 50,000 last night, 53,400 the night before, the fourth sellout. 2-1. Fastball, 93. So Matt, no doubt about it, he can throw hard. He's 6'5", about 235. It is now 7:32 and a bright blue sky overhead. So the lights really are not taking much effect right now. And way inside, ball 3. That was a changeup. To repeat, Gomes, Simmons, and maybe Siriaco in the 9th inning. And the fastball is ball 4. So Freddie Gonzalez and Roger making notes. Alex Guerrero now coming in to bat for Liberatore, who stands to pick up a victory should the Dodgers hold on to the lead. And ball 1. Alex Guerrero, he has 7 home runs. That number would remind you of that. 18 RBIs. As a pinch hitter, he's hitting .333. 2 home runs, 5 runs batted in. Fouled off. Alex got that on the left foot. He points that left foot. Toe goes right into the ground, and it got it right then and there. Yeah, that ball will find you no matter what. 1 ball, 1 strike. 1 out, run in, 3-2 Dodgers, 8th inning. 2-1. It's been Williams Perez, Luis Avilan, and now Nick Massett, and the Dodgers with Brett Anderson and Adam Liberatore. Three and 1. The Braves' last hit was a single by Freddie Freeman in the 5th inning. And a high fly ball to left field. Back goes Gomes to the track, at the wall, gone. And the Dodgers lead 5-2. Alex Guerrero hits his 3rd home run coming off the bench. It gives him 8 home runs for the young year. Massett now has given up 2 big wallops, and the Dodgers have a comfortable 3-run lead to take into the 9th inning. So Guerrero hits number 8. Carlos Frias over there along with Andre Ethier. That's Frias animated. 0-1. Of course, for Frias, kind of nice to be at the other end of a 3-run inning. 5 runs, 10 hits for the Dodgers, 2 runs, 7 hits for the Braves, and once again, it's the difference of home run power. The Dodgers now have 59 home runs, and the Braves 26. So Ethier and Guerrero break it open. Big chopper to the right side to Peterson. 2 down.
Number 11, Jimmy Rollins.
Jimmy Rollins coming up. Bunted into a fielder's choice. Peterson trying to get over from second to third and was nailed. Grounded out. Flied to left. Tried to bunt Uribe over to third, and Uribe was nailed. Ball one. 5 runs, 10 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 7 hits, no error for Atlanta. By the way, we're talking about how many home runs the Braves have hit, 26. It should be noted they've also allowed 45. 1 ball, no strikes. Ball 2. Tomorrow night, Julio Teheran 4-1, and he's allowed 9 home runs. Eric Stoltz, former Dodger, he's allowed 10 home runs. 2 balls, no strikes. And that's driven to right. On his horse is Markakis. It is gone. And the Dodgers lead 6-2 on 3 home runs in the 8th inning. So Nick Massett comes in the 8th inning in a tough 2-2 tie and gives up 3 home runs, 4 runs, and he is driven to cover. Take another look. Rollins got that pitch down, and that's the area he loves, and he hit it right down the line into the crowd alongside the visiting bullpen. So the Dodger lead is 6-2. We'll be right back. Home runs by Ethier, then the pinch hit home run by Guerrero with a man aboard, and then for good measure the home run by Jimmy Rollins, all at the expense of Nick Massett. So Trevor Cahill, formerly with Arizona, out of Oceanside, in relief. 1 ball and 1 strike. Trevor Cahill comes in 0-3 with an earned run average over 7. Now that the Dodgers are leading handily by 4, they are not going to bring Kenley Jansen in. Nick Massett having a nightmare of a relief assignment. So it is Chris Hatcher who'll come in with that 4-run lead. Howie Kendrick struck out, single, grounded out, and walked. 1 for 3. Dodgers trying to win their 20th game at home. That's the best record in the majors. Kansas City is 117. However, again, the point that we make, because it is true, all the division leaders are above 500 on the road, except the Dodgers. They're the only division leader. They are 7 wins and 11 losses, and they'll go out on the road and open up against St. Louis. So Kendrick at first, and here's Adrian Gonzalez. Foul back. All last year, the year 2014, the Dodgers had 10 3-home run games. Here we are in May of 2015, and the Dodgers already have 9. Foul back. Adrian single to left, robbed of a hit on a great play by Jace Peterson in the 3rd, singled in the 5th, and then hit that little ball up along first. Avilan almost fell down fielding it, wound up on his feet alongside of Gonzalez, and a run came in, scored by Jock Peterson. So Adrian has 999, and the count 0-2. Trevor Cahill working on Adrian Gonzalez. Cahill is a big fella, 6'4", 225, 27 years old. Off speed. Cahill, when he came up to the A's back in 2010, they thought they had a wonderkind. He won 18 games that year. Never come close ever since. And that's pulled foul. Still 0-2. So Trevor, after winning 18, then won 12 but lost 14, then won 13 and lost 12, and has never come close to double figures any way, shape, or form. 0-2. And a high fastball at 95. However, the Dodgers certainly make their marks in the 8th inning. And it all began with Andre Ethier. We had a 2-2 tie, and Andre takes Massett into the center field pavilion to give the Dodgers 3-2. Then Alex Guerrero clears the left field wall with a man of war. And for good measure, Jimmy Rollins fires one. 3 home runs, 4-run inning. Dodgers lead 6-2. MLB.com at bat. That's the #1 app for live baseball. At bats up to the moment, at any moment, with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at bat for your smartphone or tablet. So Chris Hatcher now picks up with a 6-2 Dodger lead. Hatcher 1-3 and an ERA of 5. Johnny Gomes, Andrelton Simmons, and then Pedro Siriaco or a pinch hitter. Gomes grounded to short, single to left. Hits one down the line, inside. Over to get the ball, Scott Van Slyke, and Gomes goes steaming into second base with a double. Now Johnny Gomes comes up with his second hit. Hatcher is greeted.
Andrelton Simmons.
And Andrelton Simmons twice fly to center, hit back to the box, coming up. Six runs, 11 hits for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 8 hits for the Braves. Fastball for ball 1. Simmons has 3 home runs, 18 runs batted in. Shows bunt, takes a strike, 1-1. Interesting, the Dodgers are thriving all year, and especially tonight, on home runs. The Dodgers have scored more than 45, a little more than 46% of all their runs on home runs. The Braves, 21%. 1 ball, 1 strike. And ball 2. Now with Hatcher giving up a double and behind in the count 2-1, the Dodgers decide to stand Kenley Jansen up again. 2 balls, 1 strike. 2-2. There is Jansen. As we said, he's standing up. Said that with a purpose. He wasn't throwing. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Simmons has scored 19 runs in the month of May, but they've kept him off the base paths so far. And a little pop fly angling across is Kendrick, and it's going to drop and picked up by Ethier, who's running the ball back to the infield. So the ball dropped amongst Ethier, Gonzalez, and Kendrick, and the Braves now have runners at first and third and nobody out. A troublesome pop fly. You can see Kendrick slanting across, Gonzalez going out, Ethier coming in, but it lands in front of Andre, who wisely runs it back to the infield. So first and third, nobody out. They did not want to bring in Jansen, not with a comfortable 4-run lead. And all of a sudden, there's nobody out. The Braves have runners at first and third, and they are forced to bring him in. The Hatcher walks out. Jansen jogs in, and we'll be back. Dodgers saw a 4-run 8th inning as a good excuse to just let him rest tonight. Chris Hatcher, however, gave up the double to Gomes and then the pop fly single to Simmons, and Mattingly opted to bring in Jansen. Pedro Ciriaco, who was not supposed to play, and then just before the game started, the Braves changed the lineup. Alberto Callaspo unable to start. Ciriaco has made the opportunity a good one. He has singled to right, singled to center, and lined out to second. First and third, nobody out. Dodger infield back. Big breaking ball, ball one. Kenley, the kid from Curacao, facing Ciriaco, who's from San Pedro de Macorís, the home of so many, including Pedro Guerrero. And that's his strike. Pedro has a younger brother, Audie, a shortstop in the Miami organization. He's been around, originally signed by the Diamondbacks back in 2003. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1-2. So Kenley Jansen, who was sorely missed starting in spring training with the bad foot, the operation. This will be his 5th game. He's got 4 innings under his belt, no walks, 8 strikeouts. One and two. And there goes the runner, Simmons, and the pitch fouled away. So Andrelton Simmons goes back to first. Gomes holding at third, and a 1-2 count. (6-2) Dodgers, nobody out. 9th inning, runners at first and third. There goes the runner, Simmons, and meanwhile a strikeout at the plate. So now the Braves have runners at second and third. Pitch was off the plate, and Ciriaco went after it. Todd Cunningham comes out on deck as Christian Bethancourt, the catcher, checks in. Bethancourt, single to center, was walked intentionally and grounded to first. Dodgers having a big pinch hit, a 2-run home run by Alex Guerrero. Most pinch hit home runs in a season for the LA Dodgers. Dave Hansen at 7, Lee Lacy 5, Billy Ashley 5. There have been 8 players to have hit 3. Dodgers getting 3 home runs in a game. They did it middle of April against the Rockies, end of April against the Giants. Both of them here. So this is the 3rd time at home. And fouled away. With Simmons going to second base, remember there was no play. It is ruled defensive indifference. Nevertheless, he's out there and he's not indifferent. It's 6-2 Dodgers. Bethancourt, the young catcher, they're so high on him. 1-2. The Braves, in the 18 games Bethancourt has started, are 10-8 as Mattingly and Honeycutt put their heads together. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Fouled away. By the way, when we were talking about 3 home runs, we were talking about 3 home runs in an inning. 3rd time against the Rockies, the Giants, and tonight. Ground ball to third, backhanded by Turner. The long throw on a bounce. Nice play by Gonzalez. Taking third is Simmons. So it is 6-3 Dodgers. Good play by Justin Turner. That just as easily could have gone down the line. And he not only backhands, he has to hurry, throw it on a bounce. Another good play at the other end of it. So Gomes scores. Taking third is Simmons. Todd Cunningham will be coming up. 2 out in the 9th inning. That run is charged to Hatcher. Six to 3 Dodgers. Todd Cunningham hitting .370. Switch hitter. Batting left-handed. He's from Jacksonville, Alabama. A 2nd-round pick by the Braves 5 years ago. And a strike. Cunningham, 26 years old. And a little ground ball. Rollins up, fires, gets him. So a nice play by Jimmy Rollins as Cunningham grounds out. The Rockies get 1 run in the 9th inning. That was not enough to recover from the 4-run 8th